Hello, hello. Welcome to Media Queen TV. We have another fantastic episode for you today with an amazing guest from Brisbane, Alexander Oxford, with us today. And we're going to be chatting about fast track to prosperity. So a little bit about our special guest here today. Firstly, he is the founder of Spinopractic Massage. He is an NLP hypnosis and timeline therapy trainer since 2000, founder of the Mind Paradigm System, and has been involved in body work since the age of 12. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you for having me, Aldwyn. Much appreciated.
Great to have you on the show. And we, of course, are connected through a business program with Jason Grossman. So shout out to Jason. And we are going to we're going to be on one of his summits coming up, which is very exciting. It was scheduled originally for November. However, now it's been moved to maybe February next year. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be a really cool summit that we'll be on together. But I'm curious about since the age of 12. So tell me about that.
So I was gifted with debilitating pain at the age of 12. Now, I say gifted because a lot of times we see pain as something detrimental, but pain is a wake-up call that I was doing something to my body that wasn't the best. So I needed to start to learn what I was doing, and I started getting into body work from a very young age. I was very lucky to have a dear uncle with me that his name was Hands of Gold. Okay, in Italian it's translated to Mano d'Oro, and he got me back on my feet. He was seeing me like 2 or 3 times a week and started teaching me about this amazing thing called fascia and what the muscles are doing. He spoke about things very differently to what you hear in mainstream. So I started learning at a very young age. He was showing me little points. And then from that, it set an amazing foundation for me to keep going and learning more and more about the body. And then after that, it got me to the next level, which is the mind and how the mind is affected, how it was affecting my body as well.
Yes, very interesting. I love the saying that there's issues in the tissues, right?
100%, 100%. And there's no cell in the body that doesn't affect the rest of the body. And everything we do affects everything else. And the more we start paying attention to everything that's happening to us is systemic and not just symptomatic, then we'll probably treat ourselves a little bit better.
Yes. One of my favorite books of all time is Louise Hay's Heal Your Life. And that's something I often turn to whenever I have any kind of physical ailments at all. I go there and I look at what are my, subconscious emotional beliefs going on here? What are some positive affirmations that we can do to turn around? And I've done things like Brandon Bay's journey work and a whole lot of different training as well around healing the body. And I find it all fascinating. It's like multi-layered, isn't it? It feels to me like there's not just one thing you do and suddenly you've sorted all your issues out.
That would be great.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great? Take the magic pill. So it's really layers and layers of work that I believe we need to do on ourselves to really have amazing health, amazing mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. And I think particularly through COVID the last few years, it's been like an attack on all of those systems by, government, by mass media, by all these external pressures and things that we have no control over. So what are your tips for people to help, to be empowered to, as we talk about fast track to prosperity in all areas of life?
Well, this is my lifelong dream. Okay. And that's really understanding our personal philosophy. And this is what Fast Track to Prosperity is all about. And really understanding internally, we've already built a personal philosophy, but a lot of us don't even understand that we have done that, and which is our base, which is our foundation. Now, when we don't understand that we have a personal philosophy, we're reacting to thoughts. When we understand our personal philosophy, we're responding to ourself and the things that we are actually creating in life. Instead of just reacting what somebody says, we respond exactly the way we want to respond, that's aligned to the things that we're achieving in life. And that's the difference that makes a difference, is really having a strong personal philosophy. So if someone does come in and attacks a belief that you have, or attacks your moral code, then you don't actually feel triggered. You actually start seeing that this is their perception, this is their take on the world, not yours. And you can actually have a normal conversation without having to be triggered, or you can just walk away because the person just wants to get you irritated. So therefore, well, what's the point? So you start paying attention to what's manipulative language and what's genuine language. So therefore, you surround yourself with people who are genuine instead of people who just want to attack and just want to, the sociopaths, the psychopaths, the narcissists, and things like that. So you can just really pay attention to the language, and knowing that you're not here to change them, you just move away and surround yourself with genuine intentions.
Yes, hurt people, they say, and healed people, heal people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And interestingly, in the field that I work in media, I come across people who want to look good all the time. And this is a massive thing of sociopaths, right? They want to look good. They love it.
At all costs. At all costs.
At all costs. And
I'm going to look good by making you look bad. And so you start paying attention to those things, and it's like...
Yes, I've come across quite a few, unfortunately. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, either way in my time. But, now I'm a lot better at picking it up, I guess, than I have been in the past, and noticing it. And sometimes I don't know until after I've promoted someone that they've ended up being sociopath. But as soon as I find out, as soon as I know, I quickly... I quickly sort of, cut ties, or, move on, move forward.
Yes.
And it's great to see you've got some fans here in the room. We've got Holly Johnson here. Hello, Holly. Good to see you.
Holly's my partner. And
Holly's your partner.
Not my life partner, business partner, or soul partner, whatever you want to call it, the whole lot. So I'm very grateful that she's on.
And Holly's adorable. And we're going to be interviewing Holly actually soon on Total Truth Show. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be talking about the truth about responsibility coming up soon. And she says, I've learned so much from this man, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Holly. Well, I'm grateful for you too. And thank you for sharing the love on this show as well. I can see you've tagged a heap of people. And she says, I'd love to get more friends watching this. Thank you, Holly. Really appreciate that. And I can see we've got Robert Mull, good to see you on Instagram. We've got Fyrus Daywood as well on Instagram. And wherever you're joining us from right now, live, if you're joining us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are, welcome. We love to make this show interactive. So if you have any questions or comments as we're going along, then please pop them into the chat, and we'd love to share with you and have you be part of this conversation. Now, fast track to prosperity. I love this topic, Alexander, because, prosperity is kind of like people say, well, what is wealth, right? What is wealth? And so, some people think it's just money, but then other people say, well, it's actually a holistic view. So how would you answer that? What is prosperity?
I have my personal take, and I think everyone has their personal take, which is so important, which is why part of this whole journey is people really understanding their own personal philosophies to actually come out with what's my definition of wealth, what's my definition of prosperity. Now, the way I look at things is that we've been bombarded that we've got to go out there and sell and make money, and which is all good. We all need money. That's great. But the intention behind it, the way I look at it is that we need to be building more of a human economy, which is what the whole mind paradigm system is all about. And what I mean by a human economy is that the currency is the flow that we have with our clients, we have with the people that we're helping, the people that we're, like you communicate to so many people on media, and what you bring out, what you give, that intention on what you want to do with that person, and then what you want to, how you want to help that person, is about helping their value, helping their esteem, helping their confidence, helping their personal power. And the more we do that, the more value that person has. Now, for me, that's wealth. Now, if I can empower a few people in my life in that way, I've created a massive current, and that current is then going to keep going and paying it forward to other people, like that person's value is now lifted by default. I don't know about you, but when you feel good, you want everyone to feel good.
Yeah.
When you feel like, you know, bad, sometimes you feel like, why does everybody around me have to be so happy? Okay, so
yeah, so sometimes I just go hide. I just go and hide. I just have some downtime, some me time, and I just get away from everyone and until I rest and recover.
Exactly. And that's probably the best way to do it, instead of projecting yourself all over the place.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's how I see prosperity. I see it as more of what value are we giving others, and the more value we can give others is purely about helping them be their true self, helping them lift, and helping them being in control over their lives. And as I was saying, that builds the currency. That's how I see currency. Money just comes from default of that. But when we're doing it for the money, we're forgetting what we're actually doing. And that's where the mind can get in the way, because I don't know, I'm not sure if you've ever said this thing, the mind's playing tricks on me, okay? Because our mind is just a gathered of thoughts from day zero to now. Our consciousness can actually direct that, because we start paying attention to, do I have limiting beliefs? Do I have unresolved negative emotions? Do I have internal conflicts? It's our consciousness that pays attention to that, not our mind. Our mind reacts from those things, but our consciousness can actually transform those things into empowering thoughts.
Consciousness. And that's been a big word that's been bandied around, through COVID. Are you conscious? Are you unconscious? Are you awake or are you woke? Are you aware? All these kind of things, right? And it's interesting because I've been really delving into this field of consciousness, into the quantum field, and doing a lot of breath work, and I've been so conscious about Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness, for example, like about where we're vibrating at, and where we and however we're feeling is how we're vibrating. Are we expanded? Are we contracted? Are we, and the minute you get conscious to it, you're not actually ruled by it anymore. So the minute you go, oh, there I am, I'm being angry again. Oh, okay, I'm vibrating 150 hertz now. Okay, oh, when I get into gratitude and joy, okay, I'm at 540 hertz, right? So it's really, really interesting to notice.
100% it is. 100% it is. And the way I've sort of got into being more conscious is the questions that I've asked myself. And one of the biggest questions that I asked, which really got me into the rabbit hole, is, when I'm doing what I'm doing, what is it that I'm doing when I'm doing that?
That's a great question.
Okay. And when I'm saying what I'm saying, what is it that I'm saying when I'm saying that? Now, the thing is, we use words willy-nilly with our own definitions, which we don't even know that exist. Okay, it's almost like a reactive. How many people say things without a filter? So our words, we need to really pay attention. Are they matching our behaviors? The only way you're going to know that is that you need to rise up consciously, and you need to get rid of the ego, because as soon as the ego is there, oh, of course I know what I'm talking about. Okay, most of us have no idea what we're talking about. And I learned this at a very, very young age with the people around me who were trying to help me with my pain. Most people would react by saying, take the pills. I'm like, but I don't want painkillers. I'm actually not complaining about the pain. I'm talking to you that I have this and I want to find resolve. This is me at 12. I was, I was diagnosed, and they gave me this diagnosis, and all I wanted to do is give me painkillers. And I'm like, what was the purpose of the diagnosis if you're just going to give me painkillers? I'm like, I don't really care about labels anymore. What I care about is, this is what's happening. Can we have a solution? And that field didn't really give me any sort of solution. So I had to go and look for myself. And that's where I found solutions for myself, which were there for many, many, many hundreds and hundreds of years before we came about. But the thing is, they've all squashed because it's like, no, you got pain, you need painkillers. So it's about really paying attention to, what are people saying when they're saying what they're saying, and why is it that I'm letting that affect me if they don't even know where they're coming from? And once you start paying attention to that, you actually free yourself from a lot of things that people are saying to you. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy. I needed lots of coaching, and I still do get coaching. It's a lifelong thing, because you can get caught up in your own mind again, and get triggered in all sorts of things. So you always need coaching and mentoring. So once you start paying attention to, hang on a second, if this person's saying what they're saying and they don't know what they're saying, how do I assert my boundaries? And this is when I got into neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, and things like that. I started understanding that most of us are under some kind of hypnosis, thinking that we're thinking. Okay, thinking that we're thinking. So NLP just exposes that by asking questions. The more questions we ask, the more we start paying attention to where the person's words are coming from. And what you'll notice, a lot of people that are stuck in a superficial mode will just get triggered, and they won't go any deeper. And you're thinking, well, I can't really get hurt from this because they don't really know where these words are coming from, or they're too scared to explore where these words are coming from. Where with ourselves, we can actually go deeper by asking these questions, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Oh gosh. Yeah. To just get conscious to how we're feeling, what we're thinking, what's going on around us is absolutely massive. And it's amazing to me how many people have what I call immaturity, emotional immaturity. Like literally someone will say one thing you don't like, and then that's it. They're out of there, right? Like, in fact, interestingly, just the other day on a guy that I've known for quite some time, I would consider him a friend.
Yes.
And literally, I was in Singapore last week. I was collecting the Global Woman of Influence Award. Yay.
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And he messaged me and said something, and I didn't see the message. And then 2 hours later, because I hadn't responded, he got really peeved off about it, and he just blocked me on Messenger. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? Like, we're in this world now where people just expect instant responses to things. And if you don't get back to them instantly, they make it mean that you don't value them, when often you haven't even seen the message. You're just doing something completely different. And they make it mean that you don't care about them in whatever way. And it's just their own stuff they're projecting onto you. And so I bless and release. This man, And I wish him well. But you know what? I see this all the time where people get so triggered over one little thing,
Well, this is a big thing that's happening, like especially today, because there's this thing that people have been taught, which is called emotional regulation. Have you heard of this?
Not regulation, no.
This is madness, right? This is your emotions need to be expressed.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's happening with in today's world, when we get emotional, or kids get emotional, we put them in front of tablets to emotionally regulate them.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. When I was a kid and I felt my emotions, I'd cry in the corner, or get angry and smash the bed or smash the pillow or whatever I had to do.
Yes.
Because it was important and it's healthy for us to feel. Otherwise, they're going to be squashing these things down. And all that's going to happen is that we ended up with passive-aggressive adults.
Yes.
As you're explaining, the trigger. You can be this amazing person, a little thing like that you're not getting that instant emotional gratification. And you can't deal with it. And this has become like, it's almost like an attitude of addiction, where we need something to emotionally regulate ourselves instead of being in charge, paying attention. Hey, I'm emotional here. This emotion is very important to express. I don't have to express it all over the place. I can just, as you said, stay in the corner somewhere let it all out. And we are all emotional, and some emotions are definitely not ecological to express at certain moments. The thing is, we need to be able to explore that. And you can't explore when you're projecting into a screen and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and every single reel has a different emotion that comes up. And now you've forgotten what you were upset about, but it's still there. It's suppressed. You haven't resolved it.
So true. And this is the thing, so many people suppress emotions, trauma, all sorts of things. And I know I have over the years, and I've had trauma that I've completely blocked out of my memory. I've had trauma where, at 6 years of age, I saw a sheep that I befriended in Turkey get its throat cut in front of me. I completely blocked that memory out until 30 years later. I saw this sheep sacrifice happen in front of me as a 6-year-old. I mean, now I can look back and be grateful for the whole situation now that I understand what was going on. But as a 6-year-old, even if they'd explained to me that this was a sacrifice for, they feed the meat to the poor village people. It's based on, the story of Job in the Bible, where Job wanted to sacrifice his son, and then, God said, no, sacrifice a sheep instead, and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like a Turkish tradition that happens. And that was a trauma. Then there was the sexual abuse that happened. I completely blocked that out of my memory when I was 13 years of age in China, and all these things. And the minute I actually realized, oh my gosh, there's that thing I blocked that I've suppressed. The minute I brought it out, it actually freed me, because I was able to now, have a conversation. For example, with the sheep incident, I had a conversation with my father after that. And I said, Dad, I've actually hated you ever since this happened, because you were holding me back from saving the sheep. And I made it mean that I wasn't good enough because I couldn't save the sheep. So, something happens, we make it mean something, as they say in Landmark, right? Amazing course. I've done many, many courses. Landmark was pivotal for me. And from that, I had a conversation with my father 30 years later, and he said, I am so sorry about that. He said, I had no idea you would react like that. And by him just saying, I'm sorry about that, we were able to have harmony again in our relationship that had been so strained for so many years, to the point where he kicked me out of home at 15, and we're very, very strained, headbutting for many, many years. And now we are so close. My dad is an absolute gem. He's 86. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, we're so close now. But, if it wasn't for that awareness of that trauma that I had suppressed, and, and I cry at any moment. And I've had, on a side note, I've had speaker coaches say to me, Aldwyn, don't cry on stage. It's not therapy on stage. It's like, well, if the tears want to come, the tears come. We have tear ducts for a reason, right? And this is what we need, more people, I believe, expressing themselves fully, without harming everyone or anyone. You don't have to harm people, and you can express your emotions and not harm anybody else. By not expressing your emotions, you're actually creating dis-ease in the body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know what it's like to be passive aggressive, because as a kid, expressing myself, in an Italian upbringing, if you want to express yourself, you better come fully with full ammunition, because these guys are awesome at expressing themselves.
Yes,
they don't hold back.
No,
but I didn't see that as a good thing at the time.
Right.
I didn't see that as a good thing at the time, because I was scared. Everything gets suppressed. I'm just going to be this good little angelic boy. And until I started expressing. And at first, when you're passive aggressive, is a lion and a bear comes out, and you're like, whoa, where was that?
Yes.
Then you start understanding, and that's the most important thing, is that when you start expressing, you start seeing in context what emotions are ones that you need to stay somewhere away from people, and what emotions you can express in context. It's about knowing how you express things. And you can't do that if you're suppressing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Dr. Hawkins wrote the book Power versus Force. Now, you can powerfully say something without being forceful and throwing things at people. Like, I had an ex-boyfriend who used to throw stuff across the room at me. That lasted 6 months. I don't even know how it lasted 6 months,
Wow.
but we were very young.
Yeah.
We were young. We were young and crazy, but some people express their anger that way, right? Or they get very verbal or whatever it is, and that then lands as emotional abuse for people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to be mindful of that, I believe, because what you put out will come back one way or another.
Always does. Now, when you're screaming at somebody, you're hearing it. You're feeling it the most.
Yes.
When you're loving somebody, you're loving your body. Every single cell of your body is feeling it. And that's something that we forget, that when we're expressing, it's our body that's feeling it first.
Yeah, we're shifting our energetic vibration in our body and in all ways. Yeah, absolutely. And I've been passive aggressive too, by the way, because my dad always said anger is danger. And so I would suppress my anger. In fact, I played table tennis from a young age. I used to belt the hell out of the ball. So I got some anger out in table tennis. I got some anger out writing poetry. But there's nothing quite like going into the forest and just screaming it out. There is screaming therapy out there.
Yes, absolutely. For that reason, because it keeps you safe and everybody else safe.
Yeah, although the birds might get a bit disturbed. They go, what the hell's going on here? Some crazy.
Not another one.
Or scream in the car where no one can hear you on your own, right?
Yeah,
there's many many ways to release it. I've got some more people joined us. Hello, Robert Tidy, good to see you. Adam the Pronouns on Instagram. We've got Leslie Soul, Brenda Pierce, good to see you. Kate Kendall, good to see you guys. Holly is saying here, I always wonder why I'm expected to take advice from a doctor who looks more unhealthy than me.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point.
Don't you find this interesting that unhealthy people want to give healthy people advice?
Yes.
Or people that are sick and broke want to give wealthy people advice. People who are emotionally sick, like if you've have got, just think about it. If you've got a broken arm, okay, you're not going to go do push-ups. You take responsibility. I've got a broken arm. Until it heals, then I do that. Now, if I have something broken in my mind, I'm not going to go out there giving people advice. I have to respect. I have to get my mind in good order so that I can do that. And unfortunately, we're getting a lot of mentally sick people, a lot, telling people who are mentally stable, happy, on how to think and that they're doing it all wrong and that's not right. And it's like, well, if you have a better way of doing things, you wouldn't be mentally broken. And I'm not saying that to offend, because we all go there. It's about respecting that brokenness, just like we respect a broken arm and a broken leg. If we do not take responsibility over that, all we're going to start doing now is labeling ourselves, thinking that the label of the mental problem is now not a mental problem, it's a label. And this one is, it's like if I had a broken arm and identified myself as a broken arm guy, I would not expect my arm to be healed, and I'll be using it in a way that's probably not going to be ecological. So it's about respecting ourselves when we are down, when we are out. It's a really important thing to pay attention to, and we can only do that through consciousness and getting rid of the ego. It's a really important thing. Yes. So important to do.
Yes. Now, can you share a bit more about that? Because some people might not quite know what you mean about,
yes,
getting rid of the ego. What do you mean?
Okay, so what can happen is that we can start being angry, or being hurt, or being sad, and from that, or fearful. Fear is probably a good one. Okay, we've probably started off as having some doubts, and that doubt turns into fear. And that fear, when we look into the future, can come out as anxiety. And now we get diagnosed as anxious. And what we're doing is treating the symptom with pills, because we're very good at that as humans. Okay, and the thing is, if we backtrack it, it's like, hang on a second, it's not an anxiety issue. It comes from a little thing of doubt, which came to a massive thing of fear, and then that fear started getting worse and worse. Now, the thing is, once we recognize that, we're not going to be telling people everywhere out there that, hey, you're going through anxiety, that's what it is, because we're going to be projecting that onto them. We'll be seeing it everywhere. It's hard to not see. Our perception becomes the effect of what's happening internally. So the last thing we want to start doing is that when we're angry, we see anger everywhere. So we're actually thinking that the person is getting angry or the person's making me angry. If we got fearful, it's the person that's making me scared, or the situation is making me scared. So therefore, we've got to change all these situations. So we become, and that's the ego talking. The ego is getting in the way because we're thinking we're right and everybody else is wrong. Like somebody might be completely mentally happy, and someone who's fearful and angry will see that person as a threat when they're just joking about something, or when they're happy or seeing a situation that they see as dangerous. They're not seeing it as dangerous. Now they're saying that they're disrespectful, and they're seeing all this stuff. And the thing is, that's our ego getting in the way of that situation, instead of, well, hang on a second, how is this person calm about this situation? Let's find out a little bit more about that. Ego won't let you do that. Ego will get in the way, saying, I'm the right one here, they're the wrong one. And it becomes, and that's why the mind can play tricks on us.
A great question to ask is, what do you believe to be true that isn't?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you believe to be true that isn't? And actually, there's a great documentary called Out of Shadows. If you haven't seen it, make sure you see it. And the very first line is, why do you believe what you believe?
What you believe, exactly. And so therefore, what we want to address, and this is where it all comes back down to what we're talking about, the fast track, why I call it fast track, is because we delve into what is a limiting belief, what is an unresolved emotion, what is an internal conflict. And the thing is, to be able to recognize that, the first step before we even go there is that we need to make a decision that even though we went through situations, even though we've interacted with people, even though we've interacted with things that could have hurt us, that could have, we would have felt something, okay? The response to that is what we're living with. We're not actually living with those events. We're living to the response of those events. And the response turns into a limiting belief about what happened. The response turns into an unresolved emotion to what happened. The response turns into an internal conflict on how you should interact with finding a next partner, or finding your business, or finding your career. It's that response that's so, so important. And that's what we're in charge of, is how we respond. We're not in charge of what the other person does, but what we can do is respond differently. And most of us, we respond in a way that can destroy us. And that's what we need to resolve. That's the fast track, is getting right in there and taking full responsibility of our response, not full responsibility of how the other person acted. And that's where we get, where there can be a tricky line, is that, well, that person shouldn't have done that. Totally. It's horrible what that person did. However, we shouldn't let that take our personal power, because what we do there is we give away our power when someone does something unresourceful to us. And we've all been there. We've all been that, some kind of abuse that we've experienced. And once we give our power away to that person or that situation or that thing, sometimes we give away our power to things. When I get that car, then I'll feel good. When I get that bike, then everyone will see me as someone important. Okay, what we do is we're giving away our power. And that's a limiting decision that we've made to a situation, a person, or a thing. So what we want to do is now get to cause of our response. And once we do that, we start fast tracking our results, because we're getting to, hang on a second, I responded this way. If I had this resource and this resource, how would I respond? I've got those resources now. I've got more consciousness now. Back then I didn't, and that's okay. I can forgive myself for responding that way. Now I can respond differently. And
yes. Yeah, I love that. It's so important to take 100% responsibility, I think, for everything in life. You know, how is this happening for me? How have I attracted this situation without being a victim of it? Because
Yeah.
as they say, resentment is like taking the poison and wanting someone else dead. So
Yeah.
it's actually looking at everything as a gift, even when it
Yes.
feels like crap. And it's like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, why is this happening? Even, you know, to actually go, okay, what is the learning here? And the minute we get the learning, we can move forward, right?
Exactly. And that's that learning that gives us a new resource, and that resource gives us a new behavior, and the new behavior gives us new results. And that's the whole pathway. And it all starts internally, not externally. You can't wait for somebody else to change for you to change your results. Think about how hard it is for us to change. Think about how hard it is for us to change. To wait for somebody else to change. Can you imagine? We've got lifetimes of waiting to do.
True.
And a lot of the times, the people that we wanted to change, some of them have passed away. Then what do we do now? That's an ultimate change. But what do we do now? No, it doesn't resolve what's in our head.
No, so a great thing to do I've seen there is write a letter out to that person and then burn it. Let it go with love. Because I do believe that, well, actually it's scientifically proven the minute we die, our body becomes lighter. So our soul goes somewhere. You know, wherever it goes, there's lots of different philosophies and ideas around where our soul goes. However, the fact is our soul goes somewhere. It goes somewhere. And I've certainly felt spirits, and I've felt, people talk about angels or ghosts or whatever, different versions, different entities, and etc. So I do believe that our ancestors are with us in one form or another. And often most people have the biggest issues with their parents, often is how it goes, those closest to us, or our partners or ex-partners, and a lot of arguments are over money, interestingly.
It's a big one.
So talking about fast tracking prosperity.
Yes, exactly. So that's a big thing, and that's why I change the way I look at money. Is that money is the effect of how well am I looking after people? Am I genuinely going into it as I'm helping this person with their healing process? I'm helping this person with achieving what they want. How good is my attention to this person? And I've found that the more genuine you are, the more you're in that giving mode, the more prosperity comes to you. But when you're in the other way, and you're fighting all the time, you're never going to have enough. And you always have enough. It doesn't matter how bad and good situations are, you always have enough. And that's also a belief that you're going to have as well.
Yeah, it's so true. There's some great sayings around that. Give more than you receive to always receive more than you give. And the more you appreciate, the more you are appreciated as well.
And the thing is, a lot of people come with the intention, if I give more, I'll receive more. Now, you're coming with the intention of receiving more. You have to really let go of that.
Yes.
And be purely in the intention of giving.
Yes.
And that's the trick. That's the mind trick that plays with you, that you don't want to do it because you're going to receive more. Because now you're not doing it with a genuine approach. You want to do it purely genuinely, that you're here purely to express your craft, your profession, whatever your science, whatever you want to call it, purely for that person's being, lifting that person's being, whether you're saving lives or whether you're lifting up vibrations, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to come purely from that place of giving.
Yeah, so true. And naturally, things will come back to you, not necessarily from the same person, but the law of reciprocity is that it will come back in some form. However, I totally get what you're saying. You don't give so that you think, oh, if I give this, then I'm going to get this back. So you never want that intention. You always want to give pure, and at the same time be open to receiving as well. Because we have so many people that are people pleasers. I know I've been there myself.
You're not here to be a martyr.
Yeah, and so being open to receiving and being gracious when people offer you compliments or offer you things, and be gracious and say, yes, I'd love that. Thank you so much.
Receiving is also a gift, because I don't know about you, how good I feel when I give. If that person says, no, I just give, I don't receive, then no one's going to give. So
True.
So when someone just is compelled to give to you, or you're attracting things, be grateful for that, because that's that law of reciprocity, as you were talking about. It all replicates, it all reciprocates back to you, and that's the gratitude right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I want to circle back to the bit about coaches and about, fat people giving advice about health. Now, interestingly, when I was a top Australian junior table tennis player, I had multiple coaches at the time. And now some of them were admittedly a little bit unhealthy looking, but they had some good techniques. Some of them were really good at serves. They had some really good, and
that's skills coaching,
skills coaching.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
skills coaching.
And that's where we need to pay attention. We need to be really conscious, is that what is this person offering? If are they offering skills, or they're offering advice on how I need to live my life. Now that in itself is a bit. I see that a lot in the coaching industry, that they're giving you advice on how you should be living, instead of how do you want to live.
Yes. And there's a great saying that we teach what we most need to learn. We teach what we most need to learn. And interestingly, like I've felt invisible for many years, and here I am. I help people step up and speak up. However, for a long time, I was very shut down. And it's been quite a journey for me to build the confidence to the level that I'm at now, where I speak my mind on just about anything. If I feel prompted to speak about something, I'll speak about it. Like, for example, the current fire ant issue and what the government's doing. $1.2 billion toxic fire ant program that the government is running, and putting $10 million into advertising to brainwash people on the program. I'm passionate about that right now, and we're putting a community event on coming up to raise awareness, because the government's actually sending poison to people's home. Now, did you know that if you put that poison in your backyard and your dog eats it and dies, you're responsible, because you've now put that in your yard, right? And there's many ways to kill fire ant nests without poisoning everywhere, or spraying from helicopters poison and killing everything. There's lots of ways to kill a fire ant nest. If you really want to kill it, just put hot water on it. Okay, there's many ways you can do it. Okay, you don't need to be putting poison in it. So here we are. So I'm passionate about this, and I'm speaking up about. How often do you hear people, they're passionate about something, but they don't say anything? They go, oh yeah, that sucks, or oh yeah, all the bloody negative news, but they don't do anything about it, right? So this is where my calling is to help people step up and speak up. And
that's your personal philosophy, isn't it?
It's my personal philosophy, and I don't care if you like what I have to say or not. I don't care. And this is the thing: too many people care about what people think of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what they're saying anyway. So. That's the big thing, is like, is this person coming from a place of knowledge, or is this person just regurgitating information? Like,
there's that
you know more than me about the media, that people just regurgitate information other than doing research.
Yes,
you know that way more than me, being in the media. But I've seen this as a kid. I'm like, where'd they get this information from? This wasn't in the science books.
Yes, and that whenever anything is blank, there's something going on. Yeah.
Well, now scientists are called pseudoscientists for. It's just mad. It's just gone mad. How do you get a professional and call them a pseudoscientist when they're actually done more research than anybody else? If I give an opinion to that level, that would be pseudoscience, because if I haven't done any research at all. But if you do research, guess what? In the library, you can actually get the same textbooks that they have at universities. And a lot of people don't understand that you can actually have access to those textbooks. And it's okay to do reading. It's okay to read. Well, a lot of people, but I remember hearing the story when someone, don't buy a car without doing your research. You can't trust a salesman. Okay, but now if you do any research on the health, No, you got to trust the salesman. Don't do your own research. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yes, absolutely makes no sense. Oh, yes, there's all sorts of interesting things going on in the world right now. It's fascinating. We do have some more people join us here. Hello to Joy Aviso on Instagram. Shane Noni, good to see you. DM Red Wanbid has joined, and we have Alfred Belanti. Hello, Alfred Belanti on LinkedIn. The trouble with mental health labels is that people then act according to what their label is. Yes, like ADD, ADHD, which is very common now. Anyone on social media has just about got ADHD now, and a lot of people just pop pills, social anxiety, labels.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Diagnosis is we've got more labels today than any other generation. It's getting more and more rampant.
Yes, Alfred says people can only act and react according to their current consciousness state.
100%.
Yes.
That's where our behaviors come from. That's where our language comes from.
Yes. And so then we want to raise our consciousness state. We've talked about Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. We do recommend you check that out. Actually, I have a Facebook group called Conscious Community Global that you can find on my Linktree link, which is scrolling along the bottom here. And in there, you will find the diagram of Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness.
Yes.
And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I'd heard about consciousness and energy before, but it wasn't until I saw the diagram that it really hit home for me. Obviously, I'm a very visual person, and so getting that when we have different. Well, Dr. Hawkins proved we're 99.9% energy frequency vibration. So getting that when we have different feelings, that we, the healing's in the feeling, we have different feelings, we are vibrating at different emotional states, and we are going to go up and down this. And this is where all coaches have coaches, right? Because no matter how much work you do on yourself, there's always more that can be done, right?
Exactly.
Although what I find, the more work I do, the quicker I can move out of the lower states, the contracted states, stuck states, the quicker I'm able to move out of that and come into more of an expanded state.
Yes.
So what are some things you do, Alexander, to move, higher up the consciousness states?
Well, I'm always in my conscious mode. Like, for example, when I'm saying something after this conversation, for example, I will revisit my internal dialogue. What can I have done better? What can I have communicated better? What could I have, any state that I could have been in that could have been better? I'll always look afterwards on how I could have done things better. Okay, and that's me not being ego, like getting rid of my ego and saying, oh yeah, great job, I did good. I want to have that gratitude, but then I also want to make sure that I'm in that place of growth, if that makes sense. Okay, because I always want to be better the next time.
Yes.
Okay, as soon as you conceit, it's like, oh yeah, I know it all. Then how are we going to grow? So it's about what have I learned? What's just one or two things that I've learned in this situation? Every day, I'm doing the same thing before I go to bed. Before I go to sleep. I'm in my mind asking myself, where have I given away my power? What could I have done better? And those two things show me, yes, I gave my power when this person said this, and this, and I reacted instead of proacted. So therefore, there's a new lesson to learn. What could I have done better in this situation or in that situation? So therefore, I can start learning and growing. So then I can go to sleep and do all the healing that I need to do, and my body can start doing that. And in the morning, I ask myself, what do I want to achieve today? How am I going to create my day today? It's no different to any other coaching, or I hope no different to any other coaching program. Before you get out of bed, how do I want to create my day? Then you sit down, start doing some writing, start doing your day goal, and is it aligned to your 5-year goal, to your ultimate lifestyle goal? And that's how I like to start my day, and then finish my day with, okay, where did I give my power away, and what things could I have done better? And that's how I feel that I grow on a day-to-day basis. And there has not been a night so far that my unconscious mind said, no, you're fine, let's go to sleep.
Yes.
It has not been one night.
Yeah, how interesting. Well, you know, in Landmark, they say there's nothing wrong, and they say, you know, life is empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless that it's empty and meaningless. You know, so life is, you know, a blank canvas, really. We just give meaning to everything, you know, and that's meaning to ourselves. And, you know, what worked, what didn't work is a great question to ask at the end of anything you do. What worked, what didn't work, or what could I improve, or what could be, you know, what are some great things and maybe some areas for improvement next time, without making yourself wrong about it, without beating yourself up about it. Just saying, oh, look, you know, you can tweak. It's just sharpening the saw, isn't it?
It is, because how do you know it's right or wrong if you've never done it before? Like, it's just feedback on how to do things better and better. You know, it's a lot of people, I have to do it right before I start. I'm like, well, you have to start before you even know what right means. Like, we build these dreams in our mind, and we've got fairy tales and things like that. And then when we put them into reality, we have to learn how does that look in reality. Because a castle on top of a cloud does not look like a castle on top of a cloud in reality. Okay?
Yeah.
Unless you get cotton wool all over your castle, and then it can look like a castle in the
Yes.
So, and that's a big thing. It's about really understanding how does your goal look like in reality, and instead of I need to know how to do it before I do it. And you hear this all the time. Well, you don't know. You know, how do you know how to hit a tennis ball if you don't hit a tennis ball?
Yes. I always say everything is hard until it becomes easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is hard until it becomes easy. And another great one, inch by inch, everything's a cinch.
Yes.
Inch by inch, everything.
These are good mantras to have.
That's really yeah. You can tell I've done a bit of personal development work, right?
Well, you know? You'd have to be where you are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's something that doesn't stop.
Yes.
And as soon as it stops, that's when we stop. You know, and I loved what one of Gary Brecker's great sayings is that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And so when we start getting comfortable and just looking at being comfortable, we stop doing the things, stop challenging ourselves, stop growing, and then we start, you know, atrophying. You know, our nervous system atrophies, our muscles atrophy. We start getting rigid and stiff, and neuroplasticity becomes a thing of the past. So growth is something that the only way we can grow is to non-stop.
Yes. We never learn less, as they say. We never learn less. But it's really, you know, doing that inner work, I think, is so important when we're talking about fast track to prosperity. I think that emotional intelligence and doing whatever it takes to, you know, look at yourself and turn yourself inside out and be willing to own where you've been a jerk, and we've all been a jerk at times, right? Own where you've been a jerk. No one's perfect. You know, you know, it's about self-love. I think essentially, I think it's about learning to love yourself, respect yourself, and in loving and respecting yourself and filling your own cup up, you can then help others with the overflow. Then you can show up to be even more of service rather than giving from an empty cup. So what are some other tips you give people about how to have a prosperous life?
Well, the thing is, it's in the action. So one thing that you've just said that I wanted to just backtrack a bit, being in self-love and loving yourself. The question is that when you do love yourself, what actions are you taking? What's your behavior? What do you actually...
Okay, good question. So for me, for example, yesterday I did a 90-minute beach walk and I had a swim in the ocean. That's self-love for me because I'm nurturing, I'm filling up my own cup. I did yoga the other day. I had a sauna. It's self-care activities. It's doing things like meditate. It's doing things like pray or you know, faith. And in fact, faith is one of the 13 principles of Think and Grow Rich, talking about prosperity, right? And Think and Grow Rich also talks about, which is, you know, the book has created more millionaires than any other book.
Awesome.
It also it talks about the sixth sense. It talks about your superconscious. It talks about the mastermind. It talks about, you know, all of these things. So that's just
conscious faculties.
That's just one thing I do for self-love, is that I make time for nurturing through exercise, through mindset, through emotional intelligence, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you know that you've done love. It's the action, not so much I love myself, now I'm going to gorge myself with a packet of M&Ms. Okay, and we've done that. Okay, but the thing is, that's not now self-love; it's self-sabotage. It's okay to do that once in a while, but a lot of the times this is what happens on a day-to-day basis. To go to the gym or to go and do that exercise, it's like I'm going to love myself. I'm not going to overdo it. It's about doing it, even when you're feeling your state could be low. So yeah, okay, my state is low. However, I still want to surround myself with loving people. Still want to surround myself with great people. Just because your state is low doesn't mean now you go to where, in a place or a situation where you're going to get in danger. It's the same thing with exercise. Just because our state is low doesn't mean that we don't do it. That's when we want to do it the most, because we love ourselves. So there's the actions that we take.
Yes.
And that's something that we just want to pay attention to. Like in the 100% that we're here of time, the questions I like to ask myself is this: when I'm thinking, how much percentage of my thinking am I thinking about what I want and doing it? How much percentage of my thinking do I spend on problems and why I can't do it? How much percentage of my time do I waste thinking about what other people are going to think of me if I do it? Okay, so once you start paying attention to those things, how much are you investing in self and taking those actions towards achieving what you want? Because that's the only investment. The rest is you're either spending it or you're wasting it. Just like money. You're either investing it, spending it, or wasting it. Okay, there is no in between.
Yes.
And that's where your headspace needs to be. Am I investing my time? Am I spending it, or am I wasting it?
We're green and
fun. Yeah, what's fun for me is fun for me getting wasted.
Yes.
I'm going to go on a holiday and splurge, and a lot of people eat all the junk and will drink all the junk, thinking that they're splurging and they're treating themselves. Where are these beliefs coming from? Where you're treating your body when you're actually eating well. That's when we're hydrating, we're treating our body. So that conflicting belief we have a lot of the times is also getting in the way of our prosperity, because we'll be wasting our money not on investments. We'll be wasting our money on things that we think we're missing out on. Where wealthy thinking, you're not missing out on anything. You have everything. And you're investing most of what you're making, not spending because you feel like you've missed out. I need that next expensive thing that in 5 years' time has no meaning. Where those are the things that we need to start paying attention to on a day-to-day basis. Is that, am I investing, am I spending, and am I wasting?
Yes, I love that. We're green and growing, or we're ripe and rotting, right? We're never stationary. And they say if you sit on the fence, you're just going to get a sore bum.
Absolutely.
So getting conscious to that.
An adaptation, like our conscious adaptation, becomes so important, because our perception is what adapts the quickest. So, for example, someone has a problem with their back, and then in their perception, they feel it at first, they let it go, or they have a painkiller, they let it go, and then they don't feel it anymore, thinking, oh, it's good now. But a lot of the times what's happened is that our perception has adapted to the problem. And now we're figuring out doing things in another way instead of actually working on it. And I see this every day in our centers, where a lot of people justify that they're feeling okay when they're getting more and more and more and more stiff. They turn into concrete blocks, not even feeling the problems that they have because their perception has adapted, because they've used their perception as a painkiller and not as something that's going to be exploring their body so they can actually be better and better. And it's the same thing in any context of life. What you switch off your consciousness to slips away from you. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, that's another thing. Just because you believe it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. This is the big thing, because you heard this. A lot of people say, believe it and you will achieve it.
Yes.
Okay. If I believe that my body will be fine if I don't look after it, that's an interesting belief to have. That's a limiting belief. And I remember hearing stories about people doing NLP and fooling themselves. Like they would say, okay, they'll eat bread and they'll believe that it's chicken. So instead of carbohydrate, they believe that it's chicken, and the body responds as a carbohydrate, not as chicken. Okay, and that's where our delusion can get in the way. So that's a limiting belief. So it's about finding out, looking for results is way better than trying to prove yourself right.
Yes, beautiful. What we don't monitor, we can't manage either. So it is important to, again, get conscious to how we're doing life. I want to go back to boundaries. You mentioned boundaries.
Yes.
Now, a big thing for me has been learning to say no. And I know boundaries can be very challenging for people. So what advice would you give around that?
See, for me, firstly, you've got to know your boundaries. You've got to know what they are. Otherwise, you'll just be triggered. And you think it's a boundary. But what it is, it's a limiting belief, a negative emotion, or an internal conflict that's just been triggered. You don't want them to be your boundaries. Okay, so that's number one. Know your boundaries. And number two, when you know your boundary and you're seeing that someone is trying to push those boundaries, and those boundaries are your personal philosophy in life, your personal interests, and what makes your life happy. Okay, if someone starts pushing those boundaries, instead of getting upset at that, the way I like to enforce my boundaries is I ask questions. So I'll put the question back onto themselves. It's like a Socratic method, okay, of instead of being facing a conflict or getting head to head, I like to ask questions. Now in NLP, we've got something called the meta program, which I love teaching meta program as asserting your boundaries. That's something that I did myself. I'm like, wow, this actually really gets to the core for them. And they'll be triggered emotionally if you ask the right questions over and over again. I don't even have to assert myself. And I'm coming from a curiosity to find out where they're coming from. Where is this question coming from? Are they coming from a genuine place, or are they coming from a place that they want to try and provoke your boundary? Do they want to debate? Because that's great. I love when people want to debate about things, because I think that's how we grow as well. But is it a genuine debate, or are we just going to be here trying to prove each other right? Okay. Because my personal philosophy is for me. It's not for you. The last thing I want to do is have a philosophy that everybody else has to have, because that makes no sense. Because our personal philosophy is like a fingerprint. You don't have my fingerprint. And it doesn't matter what I do, you're not going to have my fingerprint, unless you obviously 3D print it and put it on your thumb. It's still not going to be your fingerprint. And it's the same thing with our personal philosophy. So therefore, when someone's trying to attack, I just ask questions, because if I feel attacked, then it's a trigger, and I need to deal with that. Because that's it could be a fear thing, it could be an anger thing that I feel unresolved, and therefore afterwards I need to work on that. But during that moment, I ask questions, because I really want to find this person, if they're genuine, if they've miscommunicated. Because a lot of conflicts of miscommunication, as you said with your friend, he wanted an instant an instant response and didn't get it. So therefore, I don't like you anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of asking questions. So when we ask questions, we're not projecting our unresolved into anybody else. We're not projecting our philosophy, our personal philosophy, as being they have to have the same one. So by asking questions, by default, you're asserting your boundary because you're actually being self. You're not actually having to defend your boundaries either. That's another thing. If you have to always be in a life where you're defending your personal philosophy, it's time for a new environment.
Right. Yeah.
Justifying my life because somebody else doesn't like it. It's like that's mad. That's something that you want to probably get away from. But that's how I like to assert my boundaries. If someone says, I remember using this so many times, you make me angry. Now there's a question that we have in the meta program, is that how is what I'm doing causing you to choose to feel anger?
Yeah.
People might not like that. I didn't like that you said they'll make you angry either, but I'm not going to make a case out of it. But I really want to find out, how is what I'm doing causing you to choose to feel anger? And that in itself puts the cause back onto them because they're feeling the anger, not me.
Yeah.
Because you said this and this. And I'm like, well, what is it exactly that I said that triggered this anger? I don't understand. Please, I want to be mindful. So the next time we're in this interaction, I'm not going to do it again because I know that you find that angry. So you're asking questions back onto them, and you're doing it genuinely. You're not doing it to be a smartass. You're doing it genuinely to really find out how does what I say causing this person to react this way. I get it.
Yes.
And some people just don't want it. That's it. They're done. And it's like, okay, well, I dodged that bullet.
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of them on the dating sites, actually. A lot of them need to do more personal development work, I believe. But there you go. That's just my personal belief.
Yes.
I send a lot of them to Landmark.
Well, there's the mind paradigm now that you can...
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, please tell us about the mind paradigm. How can people work with you, Alexander?
So the way people work with me, I have everything online. I have my personal breakthroughs, how to create a personal philosophy, the wellness paradigm, how to focus on wellness instead of sickness. That's a really important one to do. And going through a personal breakthrough. So we have that all on video. Then what people do is they're going live with me on Zoom, because we go through that, any questions that they need through this personal breakthrough or that. And they'll also have mentoring and coaching as well with me in this whole program. And then from that, depending on how long they want to stick around, they're just sticking around getting mentoring and coaching on a monthly basis. What I'll also give is the whole NLP practitioner training, certification training, hypnosis certification, and timeline therapy certification free as part of being in this mentoring. And then what we're doing is now helping you to become a great mentor and coach. So now you can go out and find your tribe in coaching people, but you're not going to do it on your own. We're going to be there with you. And then we're going to be showing you and teaching you how you can create a seven-figure residual income, not just active income, but residual income. Because the way I look at, as I was saying, the human economy is all about giving everything you have to the individual. And the system that we have is that you can have between 5 and 12 people, as I like to call them, your 12 disciples, okay, that you can really, really nurture. And then from that, you can create a residual income by really nurturing them on an ongoing basis. Because mentoring and coaching shouldn't stop, just like fitness shouldn't stop, just like getting your spine checked shouldn't stop. Eating healthy is not just something you do when you're unhealthy. Okay, everything should be done as a proactive thing, because if you don't look after your wellness, you have to look after your sickness.
So true. And this is where people spend their health to get their wealth, and then they spend their wealth to get their health back, right? Although often it's too late.
However, I'm looking at this as you invest more in your mind health, you actually can make more. And that's what this whole system, the way this system works, is about helping you become the best version of yourself. Then you help others as well if you choose to do so. And otherwise, depending on how far the person wants to take it.
Fantastic. And what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can reach out on the mindparadigm.com. Facebook. Actually, if they Facebook me, that would be great. Okay. We do teach spinophractic massage as well in a very different context. But in regards to the mind paradigm stuff, is that good? Is that a technical word? That technical enough? The mind paradigm system. Even Facebook me, DM me. I'm happy to connect. However you like to connect.
Beautiful. And that is the Mind Paradigm, PARADIGM.com for those on audio, and Spinopractic, Spino, SPINO, Practic, PRACTIC, massageacademy.com.au, as they are normally spelt. Fantastic. And hello to Rob Zeljazik. Hello, has joined us on Instagram. The mind is so powerful and it controls all of your thoughts and feelings. Yes, thank you for that, Rob. Paulie Music's there. Hello, Paulie Music. And Glenn is on the Goldie, Guarded Body. Nice to see you there. We also have on Facebook, we have here MD Red Wanul Mustafa says, awesome interview. Thank you so much, MD, or Red Wanul. I hope I'm saying that correct. Good to see you there. Thank you so much. For those who have joined us on this live stream, please let us know what you thought, your comments in the chat, and what you've got from this conversation. I think we've shared a hell of a lot of gems actually in this hour or so that we've had together. It's been an amazing conversation. Let us know what have you got from this, or if you have any questions, here's your last chance to ask any questions to Alexandra. If you have any, pop them in the chat right now. We'll be wrapping up very shortly. Do you have any final comments, Alexander?
Any final comments? Well, how long you got?
A few minutes.
Look, I want to go back to what I said in regards to those three questions. Is the exercise of what percentage of my time do I invest thinking about what I want? This is something that we really want to investigate fully, because a lot of the times it's not about what we think we want, it's about paying attention on your day-to-day basis. It might not be an answer that you can answer right now. So just pay attention to what's happening during the day. How much of that time do you invest in really thinking about what you want? To think about what you want means to do what you want. Okay, true thinking is action related. So how much time do I invest in taking the action of creating what I want? Okay, really pay attention to that, and then really pay attention to how much other, as some people call it, real estate in your head. How much time do I spend just thinking about problems? You're just thinking about problems, not thinking about the solutions, the resolve, what you can do, but just thinking about problems. And how much time do you waste on what other people are going to think about you? Because if you think about your thinking, as Elon Musk said, life should be a little bit more than just thinking about problems and solving them. We need to live an inspired life. And in regards to the three modes of living that we live, we can live in problems, solutions, and inspirations. Where do you want to live in those three modes of thinking? Problems, solutions, inspirations. I don't know about you, Aldwyn. I love to live an inspired life. And I like to use my solutions thinking to find solutions on the inspired thoughts that I have, instead of always using my solutions mind to solve problems.
Yes, that's absolutely gold, what you just shared. Living an inspired life. Oh my gosh, that is the pinnacle, right? That is the goal. It's about how we do life, right? It's about how we're being through this journey of life, through all its ups and downs and rounds and all of it, enjoying the whole journey wherever it may take us. And I think having goals is really important. They talk about in Landmark, be committed, not attached. So I also believe that you have some room for flexibility. Sometimes things don't always go as you expect, and that's where usually the biggest letdown happens for people. The biggest upset happens when things don't turn out exactly as you.
And sometimes, thankfully, they didn't happen in the way.
Yes, and sometimes, thankfully, they didn't. Exactly. Sometimes
you can't connect the dots, as Stephen Jobs says. You can't connect the dots until afterwards. Beforehand, you have to have faith.
So true. So true.
Faith is the post you connect the dots, and that's something that you really need.
Yes, faith, trust, allow. I got caught out in the middle of the ocean last year. I had a near-death experience. I got swept out to sea in Coffs Harbour last February, and I had to let go. I had to go with the flow. Otherwise, I definitely would have died. If I battled those waves and tried to fight it, I would have drowned for sure, as many people have drowned because they've fought the waves of life, right? And and I'm so grateful for that experience now, because it's like pressing the reset button on my life when that happened. And I went out to media the next day because the Coffs Harbour Council website said that was a safe area for children to swim, and it certainly wasn't a safe area for children to swim. So that next day, after we got a whole lot of media coverage, the Coffs Harbour Council changed their website and said be careful of the outgoing tides, and that it can be quite dangerous. And so they changed their website, which hopefully now will be able to save some other lives by this happening for me, not to me. It happened for me. And thank God it didn't happen to my two girlfriends that were with us, because they said they definitely would have drowned because they would have fought the waves. And so just getting that little beach safety message out there, which I did actually a Facebook Live video the next day after this happened, and it went viral on socials, people sharing it everywhere, because that beach safety message is inherent to get out to anyone who swims in the ocean, because at any moment the sand can just go from under you and the waves can take you away at any moment, even if you're a good swimmer. And I was a good swimmer. I'd been caught in many rips before, but this was not like any old rip. This was a creek that was going into the ocean. There was a headland on one side and it was an outgoing tide. And I just went that little bit too far down the creek and just got sucked under, and like just, massive waves just came over and they just kept going and kept going. So then it was not just keep your head above water, but learning to flow and go with sometimes the king tides in life, or sometimes the, unexpected wind that can come in, or, it's like,
wow.
It's interesting, what happens through our journey in life. And if you make it to 65, you're already in the top 2/3% of the population, because a third die by 65. And so really every day is an absolute blessing and every day is a gift. And that's how I look at my life now. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are even guaranteed the rest of today. And how are we going to choose to do life moment by moment?
Exactly. We can get caught up in living in the problem, or we can focus on our inspirations and following them.
Yes. And take some guided wisdom as it comes along on the path, even if you don't expect it, even if you don't want it in that moment, even if you're shit scared, go with it anyway, and just trust that there's a bigger reason and a bigger purpose for all of this, right? Absolutely.
And whether that's true or not, it's the best way to think is that there's a bigger purpose there.
Yes. They say at the end. They say at the end of every breakdown, there's a breakthrough at the end of every breakdown, right?
Exactly. I had a client, sorry, it's just digressing a little bit. I had a client that she was researching all the theology, all the religions of the world. And that was her, she had about 2 or 3 PhDs on theology and different. And I said, so what have you discovered? He goes, she goes, I'll find out the first 4 seconds of my death.
Yes, well, most likely she'll see some white light, and she'll see, there's some people who've had near-death experiences, but
yes,
yeah.
exactly. So you want to live an inspired life as much as you possibly can, because the telephone bill worry is not important compared to what you have to offer. Your genuine fingerprint in life is way more important. Way more important.
Yeah. And just on that, I know the interview's going a little bit longer than expected, but
Yes.
just on that point, and we can keep chatting because I'm loving this conversation. Now, for those who haven't found what their fingerprint purpose of life is, what tips would you give them around that?
Well, it's again, if you go back to what I was saying before, is that number one, what you're saying, when you're saying what you're saying, what is it that you're saying, needs to be aligned. So the words you use need to be aligned with the actions you take. The actions you take need to be aligned with the thoughts that you have. But the thoughts that you have, they need to be genuinely from you. And you need to find out what that is, because most of our thoughts have been indoctrinated into us from the day zero until now. It never stops. The indoctrination of how you should think there's never ever stops. So it's about asking yourself, what is it that I truly want in life? And then sometimes people say, I have no idea. Well, what is happening right now that you don't want in your life? Like you truly need to get away from, and you need to get away from it yesterday. Now, what is that? Because a lot of the times our mind can be bombarded in a toxic environment, and it doesn't allow you to bring that consciousness up on focusing on what you want. So you need to bring your consciousness into getting out of that situation first, sometimes. Then asking yourself, what's the opposite of that? This is not, if I don't like this, if I don't want to be in this situation, well, what's the opposite of this? Because the opposite will give you an inkling of what you actually want in life. And we all have some kind of inkling, and sometimes we just consciously have lost or disconnected from that. And usually the things that we want are connected to our purpose and are connected to our passion. It can be something as little as craft, because that's massive. I say little because that's how we represent it in our heads. A lot of people might say, I just want to do my hobby full time. A lot of people do. You just need to find how to do that. And it's a little thing, but it's a massive thing, depending on how you perceive it.
Yeah, so true. Oh my gosh. And there's plenty of evidence out there of people turning their hobbies into full-time professions. And a lot of people get stuck on the how to do something, where if we come back to, okay, what is it that gives us joy? And this is actually what Bob Proctor said, of course, one of the legends of personal development. There's a video on YouTube where he actually is asked, how do you find your purpose? And he says, do what brings you joy. Every single day, do as much as you can of what brings you joy.
You'd be surprised where it takes you.
You'd be absolutely surprised where it takes you. And I love that. And what an inspiring interview this has been. It's been a fantastic conversation. Any final thoughts, final thoughts on Fast Track to Prosperity before I share some things?
I love to be part of your lives in regards to helping mentor you into whatever it is that you want to do. If it's something as little as, how do I take my hobby and then become so good at it that you're actually going to, we can help you mentor others that want to learn the amazing skill you have. Because you need to start seeing that a hobby can become such a skill that other people have no idea what to do. So to be able to help you go through that, then become a mentor and coach in that context, can actually lead you to a whole new world of not just replacing income, but also being able to go to a place where you can probably bring more income that you can ever imagine, by adopting the model that we have. And I'd love to be part of that. if you're inspired to have me as part of that coaching team for you.
And I'm sure you'd be amazing to work with, Alexander. So do reach out if you've enjoyed this conversation today. Reach out to Alexander Oxford. We did share the links earlier, but just very quickly, I'll pop them up again. Go to themindparadigm.com or spinopracticmassageacademy.com.au.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure, I must say, chatting with you today. And
it's been an absolute pleasure on my end too. It really has. I love. I can keep going. You know.
Yeah, we could keep going, and we've both got European blood, so we could just chat all day and use
Yes.
some gestures at the same time. So, so stay tuned. There'll probably be more of this coming up. I have Greek, Turkish, Ukrainian background, right? So they're very vocal as well. All those people.
Yes, yes.
And born in Australia, so truly multicultural Aussie.
Yep.
And we have here Miriam Ajid, good to see you. Rachi Mato on Instagram, good to see you guys. Let us know, what did you get from this conversation in the comments? If you've enjoyed it, share the love if you think someone else could benefit from this, and which of course they will, because we've shared so much wisdom. It's been awesome. And for those who want to connect with me, go to my linktree /Aldwyn, linktr.ee /Aldwyn. If you want to be seen, heard, and known through mass media exposure, through speaking gigs, through book projects, through strategic alliances. I have so many contacts and so much wisdom to share with you. So please reach out if you are looking for support with that. We have a mass media mastery program as well, where we work very closely with people to package up their message and their genius and to be seen, heard, and known in the world. Also, for those on the Gold Coast, October 20, we have a fantastic event called Stop Toxic Fire Ant Program. And Lynn Sutherland, an amazing documentary filmmaker, kind of like David Attenborough of Australia. She's amazing, fantastic filmmaker of 20 years. We're going to be showing one of her films on the night called The Pulse of Life. And we have a whole speaker panel coming, a free event from 4 p.m. at Currumbin RSL. And it goes till about 8 p.m. on that day, and we've got an amazing event where all the funds that come in through for donations and from the raffle prizes go to Save the Bees Australia and other pollinator charities. So if you're in the vicinity, if you're in the area, come on down Currumbin RSL on October 20 from 4 p.m. It's going to be amazing. And I do encourage you also to do the Global Good News Challenge. This is free marketing for you. You'll see all the links in the chat there. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you do that as well, because we've got 1,300 videos in there and a whole lot of amazing, inspiring content to keep your energy high, to keep a high vibe, and to have an amazing life. Thank you so much once again, Alexander. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we're going to wrap up now. So time to say so long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, adieu, adieu, adieu to you and you. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexander. It was awesome. Love your work. Go and connect with Alexander. He's amazing. And check out our summit that's going to be coming up in a few months' time. Stay tuned. More amazingness coming up. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world. And as Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you so much. Bye.